homework to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Before the meeting today? All right.
I've got to fly at 1:30.
Okay, we have returned to executive session at exactly 11 o'clock according to my little clock here. We have on the agenda the law library. So, it looks like we have a PowerPoint
A very quick
presentation.
PowerPoint. I'm Jenny Bowen, the law librarian. Currently I work 3 days a week up in Judge Kelbley's area. Right now the law library is not accessible to the public, which is obviously something that we are mandated to do. So hopefully that's one of the things down the road that we can remedy. Real quick, I'm just going to show you with this PowerPoint some of our holdings so you just have a better idea of what we have. Each county is required by law to provide a law library. We serve the local bar, county agencies. We purchase materials for judges and magistrates, Westlaw Next, and some other materials. And we are to be open to the public. We have been in a very limited capacity. I get calls from the public. Sometimes I take those materials to the public library to share those, or I simply print those materials off and mail those to our public. So right now we're providing, obviously, our journals and handbooks. We have 2 computer stations with Westlaw Next, RIA Checkpoint, which is a tax service, Purita Springs child support software, obviously the Microsoft Office suite, Alchemy, and printers and the internet. Okay, Nikki, okay, got it? Okay, so this is where we are right now up in Judge Kelbley's area. That's my little desk and our sign-in book in the hallway. This is what we call the practitioner's library, which Judge Kelbley was what, a conference room, Judge? Maybe was one, that was originally like a conference room or
Yes.
whatever, right? So those are some of our newer publications. These are the books that are housed at Tiffin University. You can see we have about 1,500 volumes there at this time, and these all need to be removed by June of 2018. These are, okay, so this is starting with the books at the TB hospital out there south of town. So we've got several rooms. The first room is my favorite. It's all the old Ohio books. For instance, we have, I went and picked some out today. Laws of Northwest Territory from 1791. Now this is a copy, not an original, but we have most of these starting with 1791 up until we became a state. This one is an original one. This is Acts of Assembly 1814. So we have a fairly complete set of these, which are historically very valuable. They may or may not be online, but most libraries certainly want to retain these for their historical value. So that's the Ohio room. So most of that stuff in that room is all Ohio. And you can see we still have a lot of our beautiful barrister bookcases and things. Actually, we have 80 barrister bookcases. Okay, that's the middle room. The attorneys are going to have to I'm not sure, there's just a variety of materials in the middle room, but obviously a lot of barrister bookcases, and it's pretty full. Room 3, again, lots of materials. Barb Avery, who was a consultant before I came, gave me a list of things that she felt at that point 3 years ago could be disposed of. We have removed those into the foyer. We haven't gotten them actually out of the building, but everything else, in her opinion, is valuable. And she's from Toledo. She's got her MLS. Very, very smart lady that Brian had come down. This is upstairs. Some more bookcases. So the estimated holdings, we have about 11,000 volumes. 80 bookcases, 20 metal, random furniture. We have one computer and printer in the juvenile hallway, 2 laptops and a printer. And then I had purchased a light stand and camera set up to help digitize things for not only the law library but the county itself. So we've got quite a large collection. This is just a real quick slide. They did a law library survey a couple years ago. When I say 24/7 access, does your library provide 24/7 access? That's for the bar, bar members, not the general public. Some do, some don't. Where is your library located? 40 respondents, 23 in courthouse, 15 adjacent buildings, 1 public library, 1 private office. The library total square footage was one of the questions. The highest, obviously you can read there, was 24 plus square footage. We were at 170, and the average and median are there. And I've got that paper if anybody wants a copy of that. Actually, I think I sent it to Nikki if you need a copy. I'm just going to run through these very quickly to give you an idea of some of the other law libraries in the state, both big and small counties. Some have the shelving units that roll. If we didn't have a huge amount of space, that's an option. There's Crawford County, Cuyahoga County, they're like way fancy. Erie County, Fairfield, a little bit smaller, Franklin, Fulton. So some counties that are, similar in size. Hancock is of course the top floor of their restored courthouse, and it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, that picture right there is only 1 room out of 7
Yeah,
in the
it's
Hancock County Law Library.
absolutely. Henry County, Lake County, Miami, Preble, Sandusky. Sandusky is one of the ones that I think I have another slide at the end here. And I love how Union County has restored their barrister bookcases and they're actually using them. Wood County, my
And
God.
Jen, to be clear, you're not showing the entirety of these law
Oh, no,
libraries. You're
just a
showing
little
just
sample, yeah,
Tiny little
yeah, oh yeah, like Dean said.
sections.
um,
So don't think that those are the entirety.
No, just what I could get in a picture. But what I liked about the Sandusky County Library, they have, I guess the ultimate goal is to have several areas where a conference room where people could do mediation, conference space for whatever purpose for the attorneys, comfortable seating area for attorneys with journals, the form container there on the upper right-hand picture. So form for pro se people who come in, and then obviously computers. I'd say, which I don't know if I've got that. Nope. Thought I had another picture. They have, well, I guess down there at the bottom, they've got several computers. So for what it's worth, I just wanted to show you some examples of some of the other counties. Every county has a law library, so. Any questions on that at all?
Well, one question I have is, when you talk about square footage of each of the places, is that one area or some of those have some storage facility for books and one office area?
That I cannot answer. I don't remember how that question was
I
actually.
mean, for example, if the question was Sunny County Law Library square footage, if you included Tiffin University and
TV. We'd be at about, I think I did that math, I think we were about 1,500 square
Okay,
feet
well-
is what we.
my question is, of those, how many have a facility that holds all the volumes?
I think
and-
most have a facility,
I-
from what
I-
I've seen.
I can
mean,
answer the local ones.
Yeah.
Brian, can you answer?
Yeah, I mean,
that?
I can answer for Lucas County. Every county I've ever been has it all in one spot,
Wyandotte
other
County.
than us.
Wyandotte County is on the first floor of the county courthouse. It's one facility, very nice, one large room with an office area. Sandusky County's is in the basement of the courthouse, and they've done an amazing job renovating the basement. And that includes all of their holdings are in one room, plus they have a mediation room and 2 conference rooms. Erie County, very large, very nice, a lot of room in that courthouse. They're all together. Who am I missing? Hancock County is the top floor of the courthouse. That is palatial. It's beautiful up there, and all their holdings are in one spot. Huron County, all theirs are in one spot.
I see volumes of books. How much of what is there, other than archival stuff, is digitizable, if there's such a word? How much of that stuff can be how much can you do research online?
You can.
What
You want me to
percentage
take
of
this
the
one,
books
Jen?
that
Yes,
we
would you
just
please?
saw?
You would
You
know
can,
more
you
than
can
I.
do virtually all legal research online. The issue is, you gotta be set up for it. You have to have the software, you have to have the password, And the type of software that you buy for that does not allow typically public access. You can buy public access packages. They're quite expensive. You also have to know how to use the software. LexisNexis, Westlaw are the two most popular ones.
Okay, when you talk about, let's take it one step at a time, when you talk about it's expensive, what number are you talking about?
You're talking $6,000, $7,000 a year for a public access subscription, depending on what you want, depending on what you want. And the issue there is not just the number of things that you get with the software, but the ability to access it. Remember that the law library is not about the lawyers and the judges. When Ohio changed their law, they changed the
I don't
emphasis.
see anybody other than lawyers and judges.
Yeah, well, that's the tail wagging the dog.
Excuse me,
The
Fran.
reason why you don't see anybody but lawyers and judges using it is, right now, those are the only people that can.
Okay, well, how many requests, public requests do we have a year to do research?
I'd say probably 10, but then again, I'm behind closed doors, you know.
Okay.
And another thing I have to mention, my phone number got changed. So even though I've tried to get it out there, that's been a real deterrent for people. But for instance, yesterday, Trinity Lescalette from the public library, she's the adult services lady and works the reference desk. She emailed me and she said, we have the ORC online, of course, but do you have a hard copy of the ORC? And I said, yes, we have an up-to-date hard copy, you know, book edition of the ORC, because this gentleman or lady was not interested in even, he wanted to take a book. Now, if we were in a public access place, you know, they could come in and sit down and I could make copies of said book. But some people, and with the LexisNexis and Westlaw Next.
All right, I'm trying to get some ideas of activity here. So we have 10 public requests a year, so less than one a month. Okay.
As we presently.
How many attorneys use the law library on a regular basis? And what is,
I'd say daily. We
Okay.
have our regulars. I get requests to
when
find
when you say regulars, how many is that?
on a day. I'd say we have 1 or 2 a day.
Okay. And are there some firms that don't use a law library at all?
Certainly.
And are there some firms that use it frequently?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So we have on average two attorneys a day
Mm-hmm.
that use a law library and one person from the public a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just trying to understand the basis here.
Under our current setup, and I don't want to leave this room with you thinking that's the way it always works. Most law libraries are publicly accessible. Ours has not been for years.
Well, then let's reverse here. 4 years ago, how many people from the public used it when it was?
We didn't have public access 4 years ago. We haven't had public access to a law library since the old courthouse came down, and even
My
before
question is
that.
pretty simple. How much desire, how much need is out there from the public to access the law library?
No way to gauge that until you open it up.
Sure, I mean, we went to the trouble of finding out square footage of other libraries. Couldn't we simply ask the question, how much public use do you have?
Mr. Kirshner, most people don't know we have a law library now because of where it's located.
Yeah.
So you can't
Okay.
expect people to have a demand for something that they don't know
That
exists.
wasn't my point, Dean.
Okay,
I said,
well-
Of places that are publicly accessible, other counties, how often does the public use them? I didn't ask about Seneca County.
Okay,
But
well-
since
I
we-
can find that statistic
Okay,
for
I
you.
mean, since we
Commissioner.
did go to the trouble of finding out the square footage of other areas, wouldn't the next logical question be, I'm trying to understand, you know, we certainly want to have things accessible to public use, that people have an interest in that, and you know, how much you're going to invest in that makes a difference. But we had stated that this isn't about the attorneys and the judges, except that if we have, you know, 60 attorneys a month use the law library and one person from the public, then we are talking about judges.
I think you want to be real careful about going down that rabbit hole. That we don't
didn't know it was
have,
that rabbit hole.
well, it is, because if you're going to base your space on public usage, that's, not only is it contrary to the intent of the statute, it's contrary to what a library is all about. The purpose of the library is to store information, either in book form or nowadays in electronic form. And we need some space to do that, regardless of how many people use it or how many people we can even estimate will use it. We need a minimum amount of space to
I'm just
run.
simply talking about return on investment and doing the public the best service that we can with the money that we have.
Well, I don't know that we can do a return on investment when it comes to a library, particularly if we're providing it for free, number one. It'd be like a return on investment for a fire
I don't
department.
think anything's free.
Well,
Somebody has to
it
do
is
the
to the
expense.
public, it is to the public. Taxpayer dollars are not paying for this law library, but they would be paying for the space. And what we need is a minimum amount of space to run an adequate law library. That's why we're here.
Okay.
Can I add something to that? When I was library director at TU, and we housed part of the county law library collection, I would have people come in from the public. Two drawbacks: parking on campus. And the other thing is, they'd come in and they'd say, I'm involved in this case, child support, whatever. I need I need books to help me on this, all right? I have an MLS, I know library work. I do not know law library. It would be a great service to the public to have a library, a law library all together with a librarian who knows how to do the research. Okay, to help the public.
Has there ever been a conversation with the public library about having a partnership? I don't, has that ever
Yes.
been?
We have
Considered.
talked about that. They have absolutely no room. There was, I think before I took this job 3 years ago, I worked at the public library, so I know those people very well. We kind of tossed that around thinking that would be really great to have the law library in their basement, because they have a huge basement. It's just filled, just like everything else. It's just filled up, not an option.
So it would
Even
be
when
an
we
addition.
talked about, so they're doing some scanning of documents, the court commissioners' journals and other things right now. And so, you know, they had said, a long time ago, somebody had said, well, maybe they could house those, maybe not the commissioners' journals, but some of the neat old journals, house them at the library, so people could see those with the commissioners', approval. Matt Ross, the director, was like, we just can't, we don't have space. So I work with them a lot. I mean, we, have a partnership, but they can't house us.
Okay, so, go, I'm sorry.
Of the, which I've seen all the stuff at the TV hospital, but of the volumes out there, not the items that you probably need to be maintained that you showed us here, but some of those are they indeed the old versions and now there's updated law, so we've got another set and that happens every year, every law, I don't know how, when they print the new books. So is there gonna be ability to eliminate some of that to get the stuff from TU, which I assume is the newer stuff? That's got, we can Fran, she's not there now, but that needs to leave TU in 6 months.
Yeah.
And come back to us. Are we gonna be able to get that in at the TB hospital by elimination of some? I know you had showed me an area where there were some that were
Yeah.
already granted to go away.
Yeah, right.
Which is what we were looking for stuff.
Yeah.
But if that's gonna address that issue,
Right. I'm sure there are some things,
because, I mean,
At the-
they can't all be getting active use, I'm assuming, because they no longer are the law. I mean, the new versions are there, right?
I'll speak to, I'm Brian Rannigan. I have an active real estate practice. Part of my practice sometimes requires me to go back to what the laws were in 1900. And in fact, I've got an active title search now that I have to do that. And for me to have to go out to the TB hospital to find that's contrary to the function of what, that law library should be centrally accessible and easy to get to, and that's a problem. Those statutes do get eclipsed, but the way the law works is that sometimes we have to look at what the law was in a certain year in order to be able to ascertain what the proper result is, and so
So we can't eliminate anything that's out there.
Yeah, we can't. I mean, we can't eliminate things out there, but my point is just to say that those things can't all be eliminated, and it's problematic to have them scattered in little satellites throughout the county. They need to be centrally accessible in the law library.
A law library consists of different types of volumes. We have reporters which reported case law for from the time people were writing down stuff that happened in courtrooms. A lot of that has been supplanted by electronics, to be truthful. That's why in law offices you don't see, if you see reporters on the wall, it's really window dressing. It's not, they're not regularly used. Statutory law, Ohio Revised Code, Ohio laws of Ohio, all that stuff, some of which Jen held up, that stuff, not all of that is computerized. And if it is, it only goes back to a certain period. Brian's probably beyond some of that period if he's into the late 1800s.
Yep.
What you said?
Yeah, and that stuff is not available online. Nobody's digitized that.
And then there's treatise material, which is the kind of stuff you go to when you want to learn what the law is. For example, a probate manual or a criminal law manual. That stuff changes, sometimes a couple of times a year, where you'll actually get new volume when the legislature meets and does its magic. Then a month or two later, you get a new set of books. This is what Jen does in the office: is replaces, volume 2017A with volume 2017V or yearly. So when you talk about what is capable of being digitized, you can digitize everything. There is nothing that's not on paper that you can't digitize. The question is, how long is that real? In other words, you can digitize a book, but then the next year parts of that book may be out of date. So there's, even for those of us that are computer illiterate and do a lot of our research online, there are still times when you go to the law library to get a book because you're either in an area where you don't know where to look, or you need a form book, or you need a book that will literally take you through the process.
I'm not sure of that. I'm not following that logic. Because if you're saying that the digital version is less up to date than the written version, it would seem to me
yeah.
that when things are codified, that there is available almost immediately a digital version of that codification.
Oh, absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. And also there's a lag.
Okay, so if, let me make sure I understand. So if their legislature makes some changes in the code or in the law, you're more likely to receive a book about those changes more quickly than you would be able to go online and look at those changes?
Yeah, depending on what the change was. That's correct.
That's against instinct to me.
Well, it might be against instinct, but for example, in the criminal world, which I'm in a lot, we get 2 volumes of the Ohio Criminal Code every year. Used to be just 1. You got 1 at the beginning of the year, February, whenever. Now you get 2. If the legislature makes changes to the law, sometimes that'll show up on Westlaw or Lexis before the book. But most of the time, if you're looking for immediate changes, like if we're tracking a statute right now, for example, for drug courts, then we'd go to the legislator's website, the actual Ohio legislature's website, to see where that particular piece of legislation is and when it's been signed by the governor. It could take a month or 2 before that's signed by the governor, before it appears on an electronic database. And then some of our electronic databases don't come over the internet. They come via a disc, old school, CD. And those things don't get changed instantaneously either.
I'd like to hear from some of the other folks here about their thoughts about the library, and I think we need to get down to the question that we have, and that is what space and where. Anybody else have anything they want to add to the discussion?
Well, just for clarification and edification for Jimmy especially, I think, one, by statute, the county is required to provide space. We know that. Currently, Tiffin University has been a good citizen and has agreed to house some books for us. They need that space. And they've generously done that. I appreciate that. And His Honor, Judge Kelbley, has graciously provided space in the interim while we were without official space for all. So that's kind of where we're at. The plan, as we have it right now, is that regional planning will be moved. Well, we have to report today. She'll be moving out December 5th. Out of the basement of the RTA, and that space we have designated as the place where the law library will move to. We have March 1st, Your Honor, you'll be moving out of your quarters to the new building? Is that the tentative date?
The key word would be tentative.
Right.
Yes.
So at that time, you would expect that the law library would be out of your quarters and we would begin renovations for Judge Meyer.
I can't take it with me, so I'm leaving it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the timeline, that's the state of the current library. So, I mean, is everybody,
Yeah,
that all agreement?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we need to take a couple steps back and talk about what discussions we've had to this point that brought us to today. You know, one was, you know, is there gonna be any space at the new courthouse for a law library? The answer was no. So where are we gonna go? Well, let's look at a couple of spaces and see what we think. After a discussion a year ago, the idea was there needs to be a place that's accessible 24/7, that has a conference room, that has some space to store the book. So we came up with the RTA building, and where regional planning is now, since they're moving out, it has a conference room next to it that could be dedicated as a storage area for the books that are necessary to be stored there. So that is the last conversation I had with anyone about where I thought the law library would go.
We can have the conference room?
Pardon me?
We can have the conference room in the RTA building?
You
Oh,
can,
yeah, I mean, except for
There's- it
designated
gets
times, it
used-
gets used very few times.
by Board of Revisions in that season of their year when they're doing hearings.
Once a month, once a month, you know,
Regional
10
planning meetings will
people.
move to the new building, their meetings will
Yeah,
go
we
over
had always wanted to designate that room for the law library, absolutely. Since that time, I've had conversations, and Counselor and I went over to the CSA building and looked at possible spaces on the second floor and storage in the basement and a few other things, and thought there might be some possibilities there if things are moved around because it has elevators and et cetera. So, as, at least from my chair, it isn't an all or nothing. I had thought that we had settled on the RTA conference room and space, which I think totals close to 2,000 square feet in total, something like that.
The main regional planning is 703 square feet, the conference room is 665.
Okay, so, yeah, my mistake, 1,400 square feet.
It was at all of regional planning, her office and the.
Yeah, the whole thing,
I was thinking it was
yes.
closer to 800, but, okay.
Okay, so anyways, that's where it was at. So what brought us here today then is to have the discussion, of not if we're going to supply space, but where that space will be. So where would you like it to be?
The RTA building is not big enough, it's damp. I know that people have said that problem's been fixed. Nobody that works in the basement of the RTA building believes that. It's an area that is not adequate to store books. And it's certainly, there's not enough room. Also, I'm a little confused. We were told that the conference room was not ours. We were told we could not use the conference room.
I mean, we wanted to keep it open for those people that might want to have
Right.
meetings down there on occasion, but it was always planned that that would be ours.
I guess the pivotal term is it exclusively theirs? And
We needed it for conferences still, yes.
So we couldn't put stacks in the middle of the room.
No, just the
Okay.
walls, just
All
on the
right,
walls.
so then,
Well, I mean, all that can be modified, you know, I mean, that's a matter of discussion. First of all, I mean, the immediate comment was it wasn't big enough, so if it's not big
Correct.
enough, why have any further discussion?
Agreed,
Okay,
agreed.
if that's what you
Yeah.
think. So what is big enough? How many square feet you need?
Well, I think a starting point would be to look at counties of similar sizes and see what square footage they have, which is at least 2,000 square feet and up. I think that would be a great starting point.
However, what we're gonna find out is that when you compare all things, if you compare all things counties the same size, you're gonna find there's a lot of differences, you know, from the courts to recorders to the commissioner's office to the engineer's office, you know, you're not, there is no cookie cutter answer to that. We
Which
could
is
get-
why I said it
yeah.
was a good starting point.
Yeah,
I
get
think
some
that-
ideas,
That
but
should
it-
be the jumping off. I mean, we shouldn't be, for a county of our size, at 170 square feet.
No, nobody ever suggested that, we knew this was temporary. I mean, I think that our struggle is, or at least my struggle would be, that we're probably not gonna find 2,000 square feet at a specific one place, that it might take being able to store those books that aren't accessed very often somewhere else, and that, you know, that a space adequate to handle the typical day-to-day activity would be available. I mean, That's where I think we're at. I doubt that we're gonna find 2,000 anybody's happy with at one place, near the courthouse. I mean, we're talking about something that's accessible next to the courthouse or near the courthouse, accessible 24/7. So,
Well, what's available then?
well, we want to talk about what we looked at.
Commissioner Kirschner and I went to the second floor of the, what do you call it, county service building,
CSA.
CSD.
and looked at the current grand jury room. I understand there's a room next to it that's similar in size, but maybe a little bit smaller. And then there's also across the hall from the grand jury room, the old victim advocate office, which is vacant right now. We weren't able to get in there, but I know that there's a good amount of space in there. And that's all adjacent. It's right across from the vital statistics office.
And handicapped accessible?
We didn't know anybody important or powerful enough to give us all the keys that we needed, so.
But they said they do need to keep that grand jury room intact, so there again, that wouldn't be a room.
Well, actually, we
Well,
spoke with
well,
the prosecutor who talked about moving the grand jury up
See, I
to
think
their.
there's probably 1,500 square feet or so available. The problem is that you have 200 square feet and then somebody occupying an office, and then 200 square feet, and then two people occupying an office, and then 400 square feet. So, you know, can we reconfigure that
Right.
so that these people are all in this area and then the rest of that space is available?
I don't think we need contiguous space. I don't think as a law library, we need to have 2,000 floor feet of space that's all together. But we would very much like to have it all in one generalized area. I get that there's probably not any place in the county where there's 2,000 square feet of you know, unwalled or undoored floor space. I don't know that that's I should talk to my people, but I think I've been on this board the longest, and I don't think we need 2,000 open feet. If we could get 2,000 square feet of space that's divided up, but that's relatively close, so that one person can administer and have access to it, meaning our law librarian, I think that would work.
Well, I think one of the complaints about the RTA was it's moldy and something's going on over there. But the fact is, I mean, it's like the Big Bang Theory, you know. I'm not insane, my mother tested me. We're gonna,
But only one time.
we don't only one time. So, but, you know, we are testing that again.
Yeah.
Because every test that came back showed that there is, that is urban legend and not fact. So we are checking that. Certainly, we don't want to put anybody in harm's way in a building that had
Yeah.
anything that's going on. So we are testing that. That's number one. That was one of the big objections. Number two is that we thought, okay, so let's look at other areas that, you know, it's not an all or nothing. Let's look at other areas that might make sense. So we, Derek, the prosecutor, was kind enough to take us on a tour, and we looked at it. And actually, we weren't even meeting about the law library. I don't think we were meeting about something else. And this was an outside interest. So, you know, we looked, and it looks like there's probably, you know, I mean, you're going to be able to muster together 1,000, maybe 1,200 square feet altogether, and then. You know, we know in the old Hoproys or the Board of Elections now, we know that there's some space in that basement, you know, that may be able to house other books. So that, I mean, at least it would be close enough within this, in the general area. I mean,
Has that building been evaluated though for the weight of the books that we are being, you know, that would need to go in that space?
you know, the basement, obviously the basement would be. the
Yeah,
only
right, sure.
Who knows about, you know,
And that was an issue in the, for those of you that were around when we had the old courthouse, that was an issue in the old courthouse. Every time there was a new stack put in there, the engineer had to clear it. There was some process, I don't know what that process
Well,
was.
I mean, Ryan, you talked about having to go out to the TBA hospital and do some research out there. Is all that stuff need to be there through the research, or are there certain sections that just need to come in?
I think that's.
I mean, could we leave some of that stuff
Look,
there?
I understand, yeah, there
Okay.
could be some books that don't have to necessarily be centrally housed.
And would that be considered, if we left some storage there, would that be considered part of the 2,000 square feet?
We looked at 2,000 square feet as sort of a minimum for the public access area.
Yeah.
that's, I mean, we could take a second look at that again. We certainly, if you're asking me now, whether we could put all of our collection in 2,000 square feet, no way.
Oh, okay, I get it.
No way.
Yeah, we can't
Yeah.
do that.
No
But that
way.
2,000 square feet right encompasses also public accommodation and conference rooms, things like that.
Okay, so we have a situation, we have a concern here and a discussion. Give me the solution.
I want to take a look at the space up on the second floor of the public service, what do you call it, the CSEA
CSI.
building?
Community.
B.
CSB, Community
CSB.
Service Building.
I mean, that's a good start.
I got a
Anything
court
before
hearing.
you go?
I got a court hearing.
And may I ask, Commissioner, is the Carnegie Library completely off the table as a solution for Gene Eckleberry's storage of records and a law library space where then the law librarian's role could be increased to include record retrieval, archival storage, and scanning of documents?
Yes, you may ask.
Okay, thank you, I did. Because to me, that building is gorgeous. I know it's been off the table. It's built to be a library. Jean and I have talked about the fact that because her women come over often to 81 Jefferson to get records, her records need to be close and accessible. As the librarian, my job could be to retrieve those records so they would just come, I'd have them at my desk to give them,
Okay.
saving
You're
them a
trying to
lot
say
of
it?
time.
Yeah, okay. So the question was, is that off the table? And the answer is, to me, yes, it is. Just, mostly from a pure cost standpoint, and also, as I had stated earlier in these meetings, the definition of insanity. I'm not gonna take another old building and stuff it full of stuff. That's my opinion. We have not voted on that yet. My sense is that it's absolutely off the table, but, nothing is for sure ever until it's done.
That building has great appeal for us, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's designed as a
We'll sell it to
library.
you.
Well, yeah, but we're not allowed to buy. We're not allowed
But
to
we
buy.
can
We'll sell it to you-
furnish.
We'll sell it to you personally.
We've actually done a little bit of research about what we're allowed to do with our money, to be honest with you, in an effort to try to make this, to kind of do a sort of team concept when it comes to things like solving problems like archival and storage of records. But that building has great appeal for us because of its structure. It's built as a library, actually it's built like a fort, but, and it could be modified based on what I've seen of the historic pictures of that building. Everything that's in the middle of that building could be removed from that building and it wouldn't have any effect on the structure of the building at all. The structure was a span structure when it was built and used. You could stand on one end of that library and look at out the window of the other end. I understand the cost issues. I get that, and I know that the
Well,
commissioners have.
I want to make sure that a nice old structure remains and has some use, its best use. I don't know what its best use is, but I'm pretty sure that it's not storage. And secondly, Dean, again, personally, I can't put $300,000 or $400,000 into that building, and basically have it to be a non-earning asset for the county. I can't do that to the taxpayers.
I get that.
I'm not gonna do it. So,
I get that, I understand.
because I can take that money and go build a 400,000 or 500,000 square foot facility that's made for storage and made for a law library, on the south end of town or someplace else, and have it up to date and used. Frankly, my concern about storage is that theoretically, we talked about digitizing. Hopefully, this is an age in which that continues to be less and less as time goes on. So to pay money to renovate that building for that purpose makes no sense to me.
I've got
Somewhere,
a couple things I'd like to say on that issue is, it's not off the table for me. I think it's still a viable option, not as storage, but as an archival center, and I think that's an important distinction to make. But regardless of that, there's going to have to be an interim step for the law library. So we just need to keep that in mind, that there's going to be a lag between the time that the Carnegie Library is available and the time you have to, get out of the building that you're in. So, you're gonna have to go someplace, and we have to deal with the books at Tiffin University, more quickly than not. So, the fact is, we haven't done a cost analysis of what it would cost to do anything with the Carnegie Library. So, we don't know the answer to that at this point. We don't know what it needs. And
Let me just interject one thing. We have had some conversation with Heidelberg, because they actually have a Carnegie Library there as well, trying to talk with the Carnegie Foundation again. We contacted them once. But, since there are two, we might get some reaction from that. I just want to insert that. So we're still working on trying to see if they have some, best use for that building as well.
Well, that's a place we think would be cool to be, just so you know. However you
Yeah.
want to do that, if it's private, if it's a private, public partnership type thing, however it happens, we know that we could move stacks into that building. We know we could make that building work. The big issue with that building, of course, is handicapped accessibility. That's the 800-pound gorilla, and apparently the roof. I don't know anything about either one of those things from a logistics standpoint, but we're not here to tell you we have to be anywhere. Ideally, we would like to be in or near the courthouse. Would have been great if we would have been in the courthouse or courthouse annex. That ship has sailed, we get that, but would like to be close. Like to be able to have somebody at the courthouse point to a building and say, that's where you need to go to get your forms or to do your research,
Well, it doesn't, it just doesn't work when you put a pencil to it. The question is how much?
How much?
No, I say, it doesn't work when you put a pencil to it. The question is how much more are you willing to, you, be the royal you, willing to spend in order to use that building as opposed to something else?
I get that, and we're not trying to
No, I
invade the
know.
province. You have decisions to make that are bigger than ours.
So how about if we set up a tour for the CSB building that everybody can go to, except the private tour, anybody that wants to, get Derek involved, and we probably want to get Beth involved too, because Beth's the the health department, right? Because they've got some space that they're not using that maybe they could move somebody from this point to that point and get everything more closely put together.
Okay.
I think there's probably, 1,500 to 2,000 square feet there that is not used. The problem is it's spotty. Maybe there's a way to get everybody moved to one side of the building and allow it to be right near the elevator or something so the public can get it used.
We welcome the opportunity to look at that,
Okay.
right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I've got square footages of all those rooms, but
Okay.
if you guys want a tour, we can do that.
Go ahead, give it to them.
The victims assistance area, we went over and measured and looked, and all the walls that are in that, I don't know if you've ever been in that area, but all the walls in there can come out. We did not obviously do a load test on the floor, so I don't know how it will hold, but they're 780 square foot just in victims assistance. What's Derek's?
Grand jury room.
Grand jury room, 381 square feet. The conference room B that's right beside it is 187 square feet. We did also look at public guardian area because they will be moving over with Jay when the annex is done. She has a very nice little area, windows, but it's only 450 square feet. But it's a nice little area.
In the same building, now we're talking about CSB here?
Yes,
Okay.
see, public guardian's on the first floor,
Okay.
on the alley, Perry Street corner. Is-
Oh, yeah,
I'm not good with north, south, east, and west.
okay. That's it. Well, that gets me 1,800 round figure, those
So
Yeah,
those
we'll
are,
take a look at that. Sure.
those numbers.
and I'd have to, I'm not sure who
Public
uses.
access, that might be nice public access downstairs because it is bright.
Yeah, and we did talk to Derek again about the grand jury room. He did mention moving it up into his area. Problem is, it's not ADA accessible because of the stairs that goes up there, so he can't move the grand jury room. So it would have to be for shared purpose.
So then that takes out, what, 300 square feet?
381.
Yeah, it would just be a little linear. He
Yeah.
said you could line it with books,
Unless it can be
however you'd
shared.
like.
Well, even if you share it, you can't put stacks in the middle. You can
Right.
only do them along the wall. That's the issue there. And of course,
Okay,
no
so
access.
you guys want to get together and come up with a date, a couple of dates that we can tour that building?
Who do we do that through? Stacy and?
Yep.
Okay.
and Jen?
yeah,
All
set
right,
that
great.
up. Any other suggestions? Yes?
Oh, no suggestions. I was gonna take a trip down memory lane.
Go ahead, please.
Well, in the 1970s, as I'm sitting here, I'm remembering that every attorney in Seneca County had a key to the back door of the courthouse. Every attorney in Seneca County had a key to the elevator. And so if you wanted to come in on the weekend, as I did back in those dark days, the law library was available. And just to even think about that in today's society is just a foreign concept. You know, if you wanted to give every attorney in Seneca County a key to the CSB building so that they would have 24/7, I'm guessing everybody else in the building would be opposed to that from a security perspective. So
Thank you.
you know, the public was obviously available to go to the law library during working hours in the old courthouse. And those are tough issues for the three people
Well,
in this building.
I mean, my ultimate vision is to have a building an archival center that has somebody there full-time that's able to look up stuff for Gene and do all the storage in one area. And that also houses the law library that, you know, would be a place to store documents and a place to retrieve documents, whether they be court documents or auditor documents, whatever it might be, or legal documents. So it certainly would be a great idea if we could ever find that building to do all those things. And if we could, you know, figure out a way to make it fiscally possible, I think that the building that we're talking about would certainly be that, but I think that's probably better luck with the private sector at this point.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you all. Anything else before we adjourn? Okay. I will accept the motion for adjournment.
Motion.
I will second. We are adjourned.